We will start tonight with all the candidates. I've asked all the candidates to introduce themselves to us. I've asked them all to prepare a 3-minute introduction. Candidates, a bell will ring when you have 30 seconds remaining. There it is. When the second bell rings, 30 seconds later, please stop talking and sit down if you haven't already done so. So first, after this, we will have some questions which require simple yes/no answers, and you will have the yes/no in front of you to display when we ask those questions. Tonight is, after that, we will ask you questions from the audience. Tonight is about getting to know the candidates. When we vote, we are choosing the people who we think will advocate on our behalf and will represent us and where we live fairly. So tonight is about finding candidates that we feel confident will represent our needs and wants. Please keep your questions aimed at doing that. So first of all, our candidates are sitting up here in the order that they are on the voting ballot paper. So one across, we'll go in that order. Cristie, you're first up. Thank you. Microphone's there. We are all streaming live on Loving Life FM as well.
Okay. Well, good evening. Oh, it's working now. I'm not very good at, is this working? Oh, it is. Thank you. Okay. Good evening, guys. I'm Cristie Yager. I'm not your typical politician. Some of you have picked up on that. I am a mum, first and foremost. I've been a mum since I was 16, so it has pretty much been my job my whole life to put someone else in front of me. I also run a garden exchange group, which I actually love. It's about bartering, swapping veggies and garden tools. I think everyone deserves a garden. I'm a part of the CWA. A SES member. I also run 2 businesses, so I like a challenge. I started my campaign back in February because I was so disillusioned with our local government and government full stop that I knew I'd become disconnected and lost touch with it. But deep down, I know it is such an essential thing, and we do need to be informed, and we do need to realise that we have the power here. We need to make good decisions. So I did a full flip-flop, and standing here right now, on behalf of my kids and you, over those 8 months, I've had to raise my profile from being literally a nobody, which I actually loved, and it's been great. It's been eye-opening. I've learned a lot about council because that was pretty much what I studied the entire time. Attended every meeting in person and watched online, which is just riveting. It's amazing. It was the most fun I've had in a long time. What else have I done? Met a lot of people, really put myself out there, and just said, look, you know, I am what I am. I'm happy to answer anything and be open about that. So I've come to learn a lot of the different issues up and down, because we have a giant region, and I'm a big believer in fairness. We all pay rates, so I would like to see that we all feel that our contributions are for us, not just for specific areas. So I know I'll have to learn the ins and outs of that specifically if I'm elected. I do know that there's a lot to learn. But I have learned that I'm not here for the council. I'm here for us and my kids' future and your kids' future. So I've really evolved in my campaign, and I would really love the chance to give it a go and keep these guys in line because they're pretty good. I've got to know them over the last few days really closely, and there's some good guys here. So thank you. Thanks.
Well, folks, that comes down to me. Now, my name's Pete Johnston, and I think I know quite a few of you here. So hello, and if I don't know you yet, it'd be great to meet you. 3 minutes isn't very long, but I'll do my best. First of all, I'm going to talk about people and about me. Then I'll talk about some of the volunteering I do, and finally the technical bits. do please feel sorry for these other people here. They've heard it all before. And if you're a former councillor, then you've heard it before then as well. But here we go. Okay, I'll speak up. I'll do my best teacher's voice, see how it goes. If you can't hear me, just give me a big, big wave from the back and I'll hopefully get the message. So I'm married to Julie. I've been married to Julie for 30 years. She's a GP at Queen Street Clinic in Grafton. And I have 3 children. They all have left me now, unfortunately. They've all fled the nest. And I've got 1 grandchild who's the greatest joy of my life. Unfortunately, he lives in Rockhampton, which is rather a long way away. I've been a teacher for 28 years, and today I had the great joy of being invited to the 60th anniversary of the start of South Grafton High School, which is where I was a teacher for 7 years, and I was head teacher teaching and learning there. And that's been a very important part of my life. I've been a teacher for 28 years in total, and I've learnt to work with people from all backgrounds, all ages and all abilities, and explain some really complex things. I'm a maths teacher to people who don't really want to learn maths, to be honest. And I was also responsible for attendance in 2 schools, one in the UK and one in here. And with that, you learn to deal very closely with kids and their families through what can be the very best and the very worst times of their lives. And what I like to do is I like to find the strengths and inner beauty of every person, because we all have things we have to contribute. We all have things that make us special. And that's something that's very important to me. And for me, the biggest things are forgiveness, kindness, compassion, and love of other people. Those are big things for me, personally. So one of the things I am is a volunteer. So volunteering is something I really like doing and like encouraging. So 5 years, I've been a member of Grafton City Royal Fire Brigade. I'm a deputy captain, and I've done the crew leader supervision course, which means that technically I can be responsible for 30 people in 5 fire trucks at a complex fire incident. I don't want that. I really am only happy with one little crew myself. But since I became a councillor, I've done about 100 incidents and 7 incidents in the last week or so. And I'm going to have to speed up because there's a lot of other things I was going to say. 3 minutes does go fast. Okay, technically, my background is in aeronautical engineering, so I'm good with maths and money. I understand the engineering, so I've been on the Joint Regional Planning Panel. I understand and can explain complex concepts. And as you probably know, I've had 1 year's experience as mayor, and it's been my first term as a councillor. And that is my lot.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, well, I think you all know me anyway, especially those who said they wouldn't vote for me today when I tried to give them a how to vote. So you've been putting bad stories around about me. But anyway, I'll start with a little bit of personal background and then I'll just talk about what involvement I've had in Yamba, because I think you probably need to know that. I've got a wife, Val, who very sadly has just recently gone into a nursing home. I've got 2 children, 3 stepchildren. I've got 8 grandchildren, and we've got a few other sort of hangers-on who are my daughter's half-sister has got kids, and we're their grandparents as well, because for various reasons. I've got a Bachelor of Science, a Master of Science, and a PhD. And Mum used to always say, my son's got a doctorate in birds. And she used to think that was a little bit amusing, but she was very proud as well. I've had 2 terms on council, 8 years. Both have been very challenging terms. I think anyone who watches council meetings will know what I'm talking about. I've been a 50-year resident of the Clarence Valley, and my father and his mother and her mother all came from Lismore, Byron, those areas. So I've got North Coast in the blood. I've worked as an ecologist, National Parks Ranger, all those sort of natural resource jobs. And generally, ecologists don't want to be in politics. And I don't want to be in politics, but people keep telling me I can't resign or can't retire. So anyway, why don't ecologists want to be in politics? Because we like to be out in the bush studying the wildlife. But unfortunately, politicians don't listen to scientists very well. So scientists have to get into politics, and that's why I'm here. What have I done for Yamba? I spend more time in Yamba than I do in Cootes Crossing. I was on the Northern Region Planning Panel for the Park Avenue decision, which the Mayor at the time, Ian Tiley, and I voted against. I voted against the 2 DAs for the fill at Miles Street development. I voted against 3 or 4, I can't tell you off the top of my head, DAs on Cars Drive because it's all on floodplain. I'm not against development, but floodplain development is mad. I've supported Yamba Can and the Upper House inquiry when they had the bus trip around, and I moved a notice of motion to backzone the unapproved land in the Waites, the West Yamba Urban Release Area. And I've attended meetings at the Whaites Street Hall and other things down here. So that's me. Thank you.
Haven't had to do before.
Hi everybody, James Allan here. I see a lot of familiar faces out there, which is really nice to see. I think a lot of you recognise me as the cafe guy. We've got a couple of cafes here in town. I'm relatively new to the area. We moved here 6 years ago when we bought the businesses. We decided as a family to reunite after many years of sort of living in different areas. So we decided to buy a cafe as a family, and it's been fantastic. We've been, had an opportunity to live close together again, and and develop a business. So we've got 2 cafes here in Yamba. So I've been working on the absolute front lines of small business for the last 6 years. So I'm very aware of the challenges that businesses face today, and very aware of the ways that council can improve in their relationship with businesses in the region. As well as being a business owner, I've worked with the Yamba Chamber of Commerce for quite a few years as the president as well. So I've dedicated a lot of my spare time to community projects and to trying to do all I can to improve the place we live in. I think it's very important to me to be civically active, and I possess a strong sense of civic duty. And it's something that I want to inspire other people to get into, and especially young people. I think it's important that young people today engage with their local council and with local government, because I think local government affects our future more than state or federal. So that's sort of one of the reasons why I'm running. So other reasons are that I want to represent my business community as well as the other people in the community. So yes, basically, what I bring to council is honesty and hard work, and a real eye on the future as far as development goes. I'm not anti-development, but we need to be thinking about infrastructure and sort of developing accordingly. So I think that's about it. I'll pass on now, and yeah.
Good evening. I'm Ray Smith. Been married to my darling wife for 40 years. We have 4 children that grew up in the Clarence Valley, and we have 5 grandchildren. I have 50 years experience in local government, the last 30 years as a general manager. Before coming to Grafton, I worked at 4 major cities, councils in the city: Baulkham Hills, Hornsby, Penrith and Waverley. Then I took up my first position as a town clerk at Grafton City Council in January 1992, but then the Local Government Act changed the very next month, so I lost the title of town clerk and I was made the general manager. I held that position through to the amalgamations in 2004. Then I took up the position of general manager at Cobar Shire, a position I held for almost 6 years, and then general manager at Bland Shire Council down in West Wyalong in the Riverina, a position I held for nearly 13 years. I then retired and came back to Grafton. But during my local government career, I also held executive positions on a number of local government bodies, Most notably, had a 2-year term as Secretary of the New South Wales Country Mayors Association, and I was also Secretary of the New South Wales Inland Development Corporation, which was an organisation based in the far west. One of my highlights, in 2020, I was awarded the Public Service Medal for my contribution to local government, presented to me by the Governor of New South Wales, which was a real highlight. But that's experience. But I don't want you to vote for me just because of my experience. I still have a very strong desire to serve my community. I've been a Rotarian for 30 years, and I'm currently the president of the Grafton Midday Rotary Club, a position I've held twice before. When we went to Cobar, I joined Cobar Rotary and ended up becoming their president. Similarly, in West Wyalong, I became the president of the West Wyalong Rotary Club. So I have a strong desire to serve and to give back. I've been a volunteer in a number of organisations. When I first came to Grafton, I took on chairmanship of the Clarence Valley Life Education Unit, a position I held for 10 years. I coached junior soccer for 5 years. And currently, I'm a volunteer for the Disabled Surfing Association, not up this end, but down in Woolgoolga and Coffs Harbour. So as a volunteer and my desire to serve the community, coupled with my experience, I believe would make me an effective councillor and someone...
Go while the going's good.
And someone I won't be getting on the courtesy bus right now. But can I just quickly go back? So that combination, I think, would make me an effective councillor and someone who can contribute in a positive way to the future of the Clarence Valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name's Andrew Baker. I'm here because the Clarence Valley has been wonderful to me all my life and probably given me more than I deserve, but I'll put some time into trying to repay it as I've done previously. I may never catch up. Look, I was born in Maclean, raised in Maclean, went off to Grafton to do an apprenticeship as a motor mechanic when I was 15. Went off to the Pilbara in Western Australia for a couple of years, 4 years, and came back to the Clarence to continue being employed by Peter's Ice Cream, the DMR in Grafton, and so on. But all the while I was off to the Grafton TAFE. Over 6 years I did quite a number of courses. I thought I might be an accountant at one stage, but realised I didn't want to spend my time counting other people's money, so I then did the real estate agent's course. In 1989 I started my first business in Maclean as a real estate agent, an agency. Over the time, in various businesses, property development, farming, landscaping, I've employed full-time 63 people and a number of casuals as we go. All of it's been wonderful to me, but I haven't had quite as many years experience with council as Ray, but I've had 35 years dealing with council. I've had to go off to the Land and Environment Court 4 times. They've taken me off to the Maclean Local Court once. I've been happy to fight when I think that I'm on the right side of things, and quite often I find out I'm not, but that's irrelevant. So I've had 2 terms as councillor. I hit the council in 2012. I was first elected. Got there to find out that the state government said we weren't fit for the future, put a lot of time into the financial reconstruction of council, along with the other councillors, and left council after 9 and a bit years with the council in good financial condition. but I think it's time I had another go. Thank you.
Okay, I'm hoping that people can hear me. Can you? How about that?
Better.
Much better. I think a lot of you people know me here already. Excuse me. My husband Bob and I, we have 5 boys and 10 grandchildren. I have advocated and engaged and listened to the community. I care about community, and people have come to me and I've come to them to help out. And my flyer actually says it all. And I really oppose inappropriate development on the floodplain. And I would like to lobby for better health services in the valley. I am strong, I'm resilient, and I am, excuse me, open and honest. My husband and I have been in the valley for over 30 years. I've had 15 years experience in state government and over 11 years in local government as well. When we arrived here over 30 years ago, I was able to gain employment with conservation and land management, which then became Department of Infrastructure, Planning and Natural Resources. I worked in various sections in that department, and that was with water resources and native vegetation, compliance, hydrogeology and geographical information systems mapping. I was actually training people in the field and the office. I hold a degree in IT as well, information technology. But before I go down that track, I had my second position that I obtained in Grafton was with Roads and Maritime Services, working in sanctions and prosecutions. Now back to my qualifications. I hold a degree in information technology, information systems. I have a certificate in workplace training and assessment, and also a welfare officer certificate, because way back I was managing an aged care community centre in Borkham Hills in Sydney. Now, I would like to be a voice for the community, to represent you folk and listen to you folk. And I know that there is a lot of unhappy people out there. And I'm afraid that what's been prevailing is that the ratepayers and residents have been treated like the enemy, unfortunately. And what it is we aren't the enemy. Ratepayers and residents are not the enemy at all. We are the people that council staff and councillors employ to serve. If I am elected, I will take an oath and I will honour that commitment. But I understand too that councillors are a part of the governing body and should monitor what council actually does. And unfortunately, I don't think that's been happening. But I can't do that on my own. We need a strong, cohesive team to make it work. Thank you.
Double whammy. I'm not sure why I've got 2, but anyway, I've got 2. I would like to introduce myself. I'm Karen Toms. I've been a councillor for 4 terms. I was first elected in 2008. I came here to the Clarence Valley as a tourist, as I'm sure many of you out there did also, because I work in the museum, and it tells me in one of the books in there that years ago in the 1800s there were 15 inhabitants. So most of us, I think, have come here because we love the place and it's a tourist place. Now, I'm also a volunteer, but I'm a very experienced councillor. There is a process. I have a very different view than Lynne, but I accept that she has that view, and that's democracy for you. I never thought I'd be a councillor. I was asked to be a councillor back in 2008 because when I came here in the 2001 to manage Woody Head Camping Ground in Bundjalung National Park for National Parks. That was our favourite holiday place. We turned this place into our home. I jumped straight into the chamber and became the president of the Iluka Chamber. My husband and I have been in business for a very long time. We celebrated our 46th wedding anniversary on the 5th of August this year. We have 2 sons and 3 grandsons. We're very experienced business people. I've been a volunteer all my life, and I still am. I was a volunteer back in the days in the 1990s, and I'm actually a founding member of a group of parents who started Kimberley College Limited, which is a private high school. And I've also been on the Bendigo Community Bank board, which is a community bank that started in South Grafton when all the big banks closed down. Now, they're 25 years old next year, and I've been a Bendigo Bank director, invited by the people, the directors back then, after they saw my work as a councillor. And I've been a director, and last August I was actually elected the chairman of the board. I'm very proud of that. So I too have had a very long history of volunteerism, and I think that's great. I love this place. I wouldn't have moved here if I didn't, and I'm sure you all do too. But I also understand that as a local government, we have rules and regulations that we need to follow, and we do need to work together as a team. And I actually see that this term has been the best term in my 4 terms, whereas Lynne sees it as the worst term. So I get that she sees it as the worst term, but we do have legislation. We have to follow legislation, and I'm prepared to do that. So I've educated myself for years, every opportunity to learn about the Office of Local Government and their training I have done, and I work well with the team. So I can see, a man up the back nodding his head. Now, I know he sees it differently, but we all have a different perspective. We all have different optics. I'm a positive person, and I do positive things for my community. Thank you.
Evening, everyone. This is just the first test that we've got to go through. Is this okay? Yeah. I was reflecting as I was going to speak, following a bit of a script. My name's Melissa Hellwig, by the way, just in case. That this actual location used to be Yamba Primary School. And this right here was my classroom. I lived over where the physio is now, in a very small little cottage with teacher farmer parents, and it wasn't unusual for the trawlers to come in at the end of the road here and for us to run out and get shells or fish or look at some sea snakes. And so I'm reflecting on what it was like as a child walking to school barefoot, the 3 houses, to Yamba Primary. And what it was like with the dirt tennis court right at the back there and the bindi eyes in the lawn. And the word that comes to mind for me, and someone asked me the question today, I think it was an individual from Angari who wanted to know some very strict opinions for their own personal vote. And I thought, that's interesting. What do you think of Yamba? And the word for me came up was charm. Yamba was charming. And I don't know if you really think about what that word means, but charm is a bit like magic. It's a spell, right? It's got nothing to do with money, tourism, economics, development, and roads. It's a feeling. And another thing that happened on the weekend was my cousin mentioned that what we tend to do in governments at all levels is we're hard on the people and we're easy on the systems. So what we tend to do is say, well, this is the rules, you've got 2 minutes, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, follow this legislation, those planning models. But then we're hard on the people. And I think if nothing else, this particular local government election is one where the people have said, no, we want you to be easy on us and harder on the systems. And perhaps the systems need looking at. None of this is the sort of speech that I'd intended. And I remember Grafton Chamber of Commerce hearing everybody's qualifications and experience and sell. And I straight away said, I'm a really good listener. So I just want to offer that as a fresh alternative. I have a master's degree in environmental management, so you might call me a greenie. I used to work in a coal mine, so maybe you could call me a miner. I've lived in Canada, worked in community sustainability. So you've tried to pigeonhole me. I just don't know if that's worth it. I can span a great degree of ideas, thoughts, span philosophies. So I'm an open thinker. Thank you.
I'm Steve Pickering. I own and operate a small business in O'Hara, Causley, Yamba. We straddle the arts, culture, tourism sectors. We opened our doors in 2017. We were severely affected during the 2022 floods. My business had to close for an extended period. And I lived in temporary accommodation for 7 months. We're still working to recover and to become more resilient. I spent most of my working life in the IT sector, working for a large multinational corporation. I learned how to work with a team, how to delegate tasks as required, and how interdivisional and interdepartmental cooperation can benefit everyone. I spent time in technical, account management and business analyst roles, working with people, analysing process and making improvements. Technology and cybersecurity have always been an interest of mine. During the COVID lockdown, I spent time learning remotely to gain a postgraduate certificate in cybersecurity. I worked with my community on many local initiatives and projects, some more successful than others, fighting to retain the local swimming pool, preserving the Yamba Southgate Ferry, organising riverside picnics, the Lantern Festival, and I've proven track record of serving my community as a director on the board of Arsenal and Rivers.
Sorry, Steve, that one's not coming through our life.
Is that okay? Yeah. Yeah. I have a proven track record serving my community as a director on the board of Arts Northern Rivers, a volunteer with the RFS and the SES. I also worked with the City of Coffs Harbour to renew our bulk regional water supply agreement, a review that was long overdue. I've made in-person representation to the parliamentary inquiry into the insurer's response to the 2022 floods, the Federal Government Regional Telecommunications Review, and the New South Wales Productivity Commission's investigation into water funding. I was elected to Clarence Valley Council in 2021, and as a first-term councillor, have promoted and encouraged a focus on youth, art, culture, heritage, environment, accessibility, inclusiveness, active transport options, reliable clean drinking water, promoting transparency in decision-making, and supporting and encouraging local business, farmers, and our community. And if re-elected, I'll continue to do that. Communication with council and communication by council needs to improve, and I will make it a priority to advocate for this change. Once the key projects like the Grafton Pool, Treelands Drive Community Centre and the Maclean Cultural Centre are complete, Council can shift its focus to future initiatives such as water filtration, constructing the Naboida Fish Ladder, enhancing active transport links for walkers, cyclists and people with mobility aids, and ensuring all-inclusive beach access for everyone. I'm committed to fostering a welcoming, inclusive community, making thoughtful planning decisions and taking a measured approach to environmental issues. I'm a strategic thinker, a listener, a doer, and a tireless advocate for the Clarence Valley. I am civic-minded and driven to serve our community. I'm committed to preserving our valley's heritage and promoting its unique character. I'm dedicated to service and our community's well-being, and I will always work to make a positive impact.
Hello everybody, I'm Des Schroder. I'd just like to acknowledge we're on the Yager country tonight. We haven't done an acknowledgement of the country and I think we should. So I'd just like to acknowledge and pay respect to their elders past and present. So I just thought we should do that. A lot of you in this room will know me. I've been around Yamba for a long time. I actually moved here in '95 for 6 years. I lived here. I was a director in council for 14 years after that. So I was looking after environment, planning, community. And I also was a regional director before that on the whole North Coast. So I went from Kempsey to the border for a long period before that. So I know the North Coast backwards. I know the Valley backwards. I know Yamba backwards. And I've moved into Grafton about 2001. So I've been in the Valley 30 years now. I don't know whether I'm a local. I don't know. Somebody might define what a local is. But and I've raised 2 daughters in the Valley. They've been all schooled right through here. I'm a big volunteer. I do over 500 hours a year. A lot of that's on Jacaranda Committee in Grafton. I'm the Senior Vice President on the Jacaranda Committee in Grafton. I'm on the Country University Board. And by the way, Country University Board is seriously looking at how we locate into Yamba at the moment. We've been actually talking to quite a lot of people, trying to find maybe a location down with the new TAFE and the new library. We might be able to locate it there. That's an important. I'm very much involved in youth education. I'm also on the Clarence Valley Anglican School Board too, so I'm very involved in the community. Not so much down here, but upriver, but also those 2 institutions have students, if you like, from down here. My experience, I think, I've also got 2 degrees, by the way, but I won't talk about those. In my previous role in council, of course, I had a lot to do with economic development. I understand the thousands of small businesses that actually operate in this town. This town relies on the small businesses. It's so important that the council has a can-do attitude to those businesses. I know the pressures of cost of living at the moment, that's huge, and it's absolutely crucial that we actually keep supporting those businesses and get out of the road. Council needs to get out of the road. When I was the director of planning, I probably got in the road a lot too much as a council. I think we need to get out of the road a lot more. And basically also how important tourism is to this place and promoting tourism. So I understand the small businesses, and that's how this place functions. It really does function around small businesses. I'm reasonably pro-development, and I'm also worried about affordable housing. I had a look at the price of a house in Yamba yesterday. Realestate.com, real estate agent might tell me I'm wrong, but $875,000 for an average 3-bedroom house in Yamba now. I'm really worried you're not going to have the chefs, the wait staff, all those sort of people to service your businesses. I know it's already a problem, and those houses are heading towards $1 million. So, and rents are up to $600 a week now. So again, I've got a real concern about housing and how we house people, basic infrastructure, and looking after the place. So that's my focus. Focus on people, focus on communities, understand the importance of roads, water, sewage, all those basic things that people get concerned about. But really, the small businesses really need looking after.
All good. Hi everybody, my name is Deborah Novak and I have lived here in the Clarence Valley for 40 years. I'm a mother of 3 and I've been running a business for over 30 years. So for the past decade, I have been advocating for small business, mental health, water and food security, our First Nations, domestic violence, cold cases times 10, primary industries, natural disasters and disaster adaptation. Recently as last week, the business that I run alongside 45 other businesses here in Yamba, the Yamba Farmers and Producers Market was named a finalist in the New South Wales Northern Rivers Business Awards. The Farmers Market, which I've been coordinating for 9 years, injects over $5 million annually into the circular economy. We've survived floods, we've survived a pandemic, we've survived drought, and we've survived the fires, all because we have adapted, we have pivoted, and we have become very resilient. So it's about supporting each other within that food family. It's an honour to be a part of that group of people to bring food to our community, and it's an even greater honour to know that they are so amazing that they've kept going for you guys. So that always really makes me feel really emotional because they're the ones who are out there in the rain doing everything to get food to our table. So a real gate to plate experience. My 3 children I've raised here in the Clarence Valley, and they've gone on to do some amazing things. One is a careers advisor, the other works in mental health, and the other is a lieutenant in the Navy, all from Maclean High School, which, you know, is an extraordinary high school, an extraordinary education, and they offer great diversity and great learning from on the ground. So it's been a real privilege to be a part of that school system as well. What I bring to the table in my, I've been a council for 2 terms. It's been great learning about what happens at a local government level. Prior to that, I worked in the media for 25 years and thought I knew quite a lot until I became an elected councillor and had to actually unlearn and relearn a lot of new skills when it comes to understanding what it's like to be in local government. We do have a set of rules and we do have a great role to play in supporting our community. So for me, the greatest thing take home tonight for you guys is to read the community strategic plan, because if anything you want to see happen in this valley goes into that community strategic plan, and it's currently on review. Just Google Clarence Conversations and you'll see it there. Thank you.
Hi everyone, so I'm Amanda Brien. I am a mum, stepmum, grandmum. Is that right? Can you still hear me? Yep. My family returned home to the Clarence Valley last year, and it's been such a lovely experience being back, reconnecting with people, meeting new friends. I, with my husband, used to have some businesses in Maclean and Grafton. I have worked as a teacher at Macaulay for many years, absolutely passionate about education. I think the most important thing to me is education, because I do see it as a way to safe, well and healthy communities in the future. And having a safe, well and healthy community is one of the current visions in the community strategic plan that Council has. So I'm standing for election for personal reasons, and it's to do with my personal experiences with accessing services, and it gave me a whole new appreciation of the impact that local government can have on our lives. And I think it's so important to have that passion reflected in a council. So what I would like to see or hope to achieve would be 3 key things, and they're also connected to the community strategic plan. The first is about connected and supported communities, and that's all what I'm about, really. Sums me up nicely. And I'm talking about spaces and places, services, and the infrastructure that connects those and connects people. The second thing that I'm quite passionate about is a strong local economy, because in my opinion, I think having access to education, training and employment opportunities is so crucial to supporting a well community and well-being. And the third thing I'm quite passionate about is looking to improve our flood and bushfire mitigation and recovery. I think that there's a lot of risk there in terms of economic costs and social costs to us, and I'd really like to see that strengthened across our valley. What I offer, what I bring is an understanding of how government works, having worked for the last 5 years in state government in education. So developing policy, listening to people's views, making sure people are heard, and that's reflected in the policies that are put forward. And I bring also experience in business, which I think is crucial, because that's all about supporting employment, education and training. I have done a few degrees in natural resources and education and law, and I'm hoping to be able to work with your community and represent the whole Clarence Valley in future. And I think if that resonates you know what to do on voting day, but I'd like you to really consider the people that you do vote for.
Okay, well, that was all lovely and civilised, wasn't it? Thank you. Now I'm going to ask some questions that require a simple yes or no answer. So you've got your little sheets in front of you. Hold them up high so everybody at the back can see your answers. And you're all voting yes so far. That's nice. That's good. What do we want to ask them that they're voting yes for? Just before I go, I would like to thank Damien for Loving Life FM for being here tonight. He's currently live streaming the event tonight. The link is also on the Yamba Chamber of Commerce Facebook page for anybody that wants to connect on that later. It will be there forever. So, Damien, what was the website again they go to? clarencemedia.com.au. Go to that website and you can replay tonight whenever you feel like it. So our first question. Would you advocate and or support the reinstatement of a tourism information centre for Yamba? I will stand back so you can see all the answers. Would you advocate and or support the reinstatement of a tourism information centre for Yamba? A manned information centre for Yamba. Well, not manned. Okay, thank you. Do you think promoting tourism in Yamba is beneficial for the whole Clarence Valley? Thank you. Would you support any regulation that stops high-rise development in the Yamba CBD area? Would you support any regulation that stops high-rise development in the Yamba CBD area?
High-rise.
That means.
As in high-rise development for the CBD area. Yes, yes. Higher than what it is now. Would you support any relation that stops it?
They're not direct questions.
Not a really good question.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the Clarence Valley Council is working for the current Clarence Valley Council? Sorry, start again. Do you think the Clarence Valley Council is working for the community and being run well? We do appreciate that some of these answers are difficult for non-existing councillors to vote on, so we do understand that, and please take that into account when you're looking at their answers. Thank you. Would you push for the upgrade of Calypso Caravan Park and the walkway from Yamba Street? Thank you. If elected, do you feel it is important to work closely with local chambers and attend their meetings on a regular basis? You can if you, for that?
Because I'm a member of your chamber.
Oh, yes. You're already a member of our chamber, yes. Thank you. Thank you. Do you feel it is important to visit areas of the valley away from where you live? Thank you. Do you think the new road into Yamba, therefore having two roads in and out of Yamba, is a priority? Thank you. If elected, would you be prepared to attend and engage with residents at community group meetings on matters of local importance? Thank you. And this is a little bit longer one from one of the audience. The community was told the McLean Civic Hall would be demolished a year ago to make way for a new Lower Clarence Performing Arts Centre. The DA was approved a year ago, but it's been very difficult to find out why the project has been delayed or see the final design before it eventually goes to tender this month or the changes to the budget. Do you support the transparency regarding budget, access to the final design, and a timely completion of the project? Thank you. So now we just have some questions that have been given from people who have come here tonight. So with these questions, if you would like to answer, it's basically a matter of just either standing up or putting your hand up and saying that you would like to answer. We would like you to keep your answers very, very brief because there might be more than one of you wants to answer that question. Okay, so the first question is, if elected, you will be one of 9 councillors. How do you propose to get issues important to you supported by enough other councillors to get it passed? Someone stand up. Yep. You might. Do you want to stand in front and pass the mic along to them? Yeah, thanks.
So I'm about to ruin all my chances because I've been working really hard. I've been working really hard to get to know all these guys personally. So I'm probably going to just wreck it all right now. I just like people. I think we are all very diverse, and I'm very open and accepting of, you know, individuals and who they are. And I like to disagree because you learn a lot about a person when you can disagree, and it's even better when you can do it with respect. So I would like, my method would be to build a rapport, have a laugh, have a chat, you know, and it's not all business. I think as councillors, that's a long time to spend a lot of time talking about important things. So yeah, my method would be just to build a rapport and have somewhat of a personal relationship as well, so we can openly discuss things with respect as grown-ups. Thanks.
Thank you.
Andrew want to go first?
Thank you. It is possible to get enough other councillors to agree with you if you've got a good case, if you're prepared to carry that case. The Local Government Act and the regulations tell us the protocols that we must, or I should say we, councillors must follow. You can't have little secret meetings outside. The decisions have got to be made out in front of the public at a council meeting, and there's just about to be a change announced, I think, only last weekend, where there won't even be secret briefing of councillors. All the decisions have to be fully transparent. Then you've got to prosecute your position, and if it's good enough, even if people don't personally agree with you, they will hopefully see that it is a benefit to the community. That's all there is to being a councillor.
Thank you.
Okay, the problem is it's who you're going to elect, because we need a team that will work together, and that's up to you out there to elect that team, because we have a whole lot of diverse views and opinions. All you've got to do is look at the last 2 terms of council to see how, if different councillors have different points of view and different ways of dealing with other councillors, which can be quite difficult. Well, how can I put it? I may not, maybe I shouldn't say it, but anyway, the point is, the way you get your motions through is you have to have 5 out of the 9 councillors. You're never going to get 9 out of 9 on contentious issues. We do vote at the moment a lot of unanimous decisions. There are a lot of issues that go through unanimous, but once you start getting involved in issues like the environment, timber, floodplain, you're going to get such diverse views. That's where all these differences occur. And that's where you need 5 level heads to make the decision, at least 5, hopefully 9, but you need at least 5 to make the decisions. Thank you.
Yes, Andrew is right, and it's actually under the Code of Meeting Practice and also the Local Government Act that councillors are not to caucus prior to a council meeting. The only time that they can caucus and, work out a decision between each other is with the election of mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes, we're not allowed to caucus except for the mayor and deputy mayor, but there's nothing to stop councillors discussing what's on the business paper with other councillors or with the community. You just can't go into a council meeting with an agreed decision between councillors. So you can discuss things with other councillors. I do it all the time, other people do it, and I do discuss things with the community. That's what we're here for, to represent the community. Thank you.
So this question is probably more for the candidates who aren't currently on the council. What do you think the Clarence Valley Council does not do well looking from the outside?
Okay. The first thing that comes to mind, and there is a few things, but the first thing that comes to mind for me is it just takes too long to get anything done. When I was with the chamber, we worked to represent businesses in many cases, and I heard stories all the time about people looking for simple answers to simple problems that they had with their business, and it just taking forever to get a response from council, if ever. People would look for clarification on what they could or couldn't do with their business, and council would they'd be unsure of where to go to start with. And once they got onto someone, I heard so many times council, promising to call them back in a timely manner, and then no call coming, and this business having to chase council to look for the answers. And the whole time, businesses are sitting on their hands, waiting for a response and losing money. And that's just something that businesses can't afford, and that council needs to improve on. I mean, businesses need to see council as their friend and ally, and not as a hurdle to jump over.
Thank you. I think something that's really important for any governing body and anyone in general is the idea of what you class as effective civic leadership. I have been hearing that there are communication issues and people aren't receiving the information they need. But then I guess the next step is, what do we do to take that forward? And I think, to me, effective civic leadership is about listening to people, being empathetic, taking their views and considering all those views. And as a councillor, I think the crucial thing is to role model what we want to see from others. So I think sharing and being transparent and sharing all the information with the community is something that we should be looking to do as councillors.
Yeah, I don't think there's any secret towards the end of the last council, it wasn't very unified. And reality is, when you haven't got a unified council, you spend a lot of time wasting energy, making negative decisions. So reality is, I'm hoping this new council has big opportunities, because you've got a chance to elect new ones. There's 3 retired for a start, to actually make it a much more unified council, and I hope you take that opportunity.
Thank you. From what I've heard, and I've had neighbours and friends already coming to me with wads of paper and emails and dates and notes and things, if I had to really sum it up, the one thing would be follow-up and resolution. So there's a woman I know who just said, if they could send me a letter that says, more or less, tough luck, we're done, we'll never talk about it again, they'd actually be happy. In defence of council, we are in a massive council area and we are understaffed in terms of how many people on the ground there are per square kilometre. This is an extremely unique, massive council area, so we'll cut them some slack. However, the follow-up from us is really important. Emails, photocopies, send the photocopies, make the follow-up phone calls. And I think there need to be better records of processes. Just as a little example, if you're ringing a trade and you're trying to get, a piece of timber here repaired, and they say, well, I'm busy all of September, you can book in a meeting for the 1st of October. So I think one thing we do have to do is have very specific dates by which people get back to you. Those are recorded as performance indicators for staff, and this is then articulated back to the community. That's probably it.
Thank you. The one word I could sum up the dissatisfaction that I hear is accountability, and it's not the big picture issues that I hear complaints about. It's the smaller issues. The builder who's put his application in, it's been with the appropriate department for a few weeks. They've been back and forward in contact. They've been told that it'll be out this week. He goes in on Friday. Oh, that staff member's gone on holiday, so come back in 3 weeks' time. That's not how businesses, in my view, run. If I was running a business like that, then you couldn't sustain it. People will go elsewhere. But unfortunately, council doesn't have much competition, so you can't go down the road. Now, in previous terms of council, I put to the council, and it was adopted, that every meeting of council get a very small report about how long DAs have taken to be processed, and an explanation, because it's not always the council's fault, but sometimes I know it is. That was came to every meeting that I was at, but I notice now that that's been taken away. The other thing that I first put to council, supported by Councillor Toms at the time, was that we record every meeting. And that was defeated to start with. Now it's legislation, but at the start, the council, the entire council of 9 didn't want to be accountable for the decisions they made. They wouldn't keep proper record of the meeting, and they wouldn't allow it to be recorded. So it does move, but it's bloody slow.
Okay, the next question.
Sorry. Throughout my campaign, the feedback has been similar to what James raised. It's the delay in a response, and on a lot of occasions, the total lack of response. When I was General Manager at Grafton City Council, I had an open door policy. If someone came in off the street, if it was a pensioner concerned about their rates, someone's garbage hadn't been picked up, if I wasn't at a meeting, I'd go down and talk to them. Because what I've learned over 50 years in local government, when someone comes into the council with an issue like that, as small as it is, to that person, that's the biggest issue in their life at that time. And it can take 5-10 minutes to address it and get a resolution. And that approach permeates through the staff culture. And unfortunately, I don't believe that's what we have at the moment.
Yes, thank you. I think community consultation needs to greatly improve, and also transparency and accountability. Now, with this local housing strategy and the flood modelling that has occurred just recently, none of the people who are impacted with the local housing strategy were aware of these changing of the zoning at all. That is just appalling. I think also too, the town hall meetings need to come back and have a mix of reaching out to you folk, and at a decent time, and maybe mix with the drop-in sessions as well, so that those who might be a little bit timid in coming forward with their questions, but town hall meetings so everybody can hear other people talking, and they could say, oh, wouldn't that be good? I didn't even think of that question. And also, enough of these grandiose infrastructure, you know, the Taj Mahal type things. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty and let's look after the essential services, the maintenance of those as well. Now, the Clarence magazine, we actually asked council, we sent in a email asking how much does that cost, how many are printed each quarter, and we wanted to know the cost of formulating, reviewing, the cost of obtaining the photographs and all of that. The response we got back was that there are 5,000 copies printed per quarter, and they don't quantify staff time, so they couldn't tell us how much it cost. Now, is that a good way of budgeting? I don't think so. Thank you.
Just a couple of things, very simple actually, listening to that. I would love when things go out to the community that they were simplified. The amount of documents I've read that are scientific and technical, not everyday people can read those. I think it's essential for council to have those documents to work with, but can we do simple pros, cons and costs? For community who want to know what's going on, but they don't really need to know the scientific background or all the crazy jargon that they just turn away from because it's just too much. I remember, no offense, Pete, but when I was a little girl, the mayor would dress up and walk down the street with a bell. We knew who our mayor was. We knew how our councillors were. Well, okay, well, I was little, so I'm wrong. I will take that hit. My fault. But I remember my parents stopping and shaking the hand of councillors and, you know, jacaranda, different things like that. There was a presence, you know, it was, and drop-in sessions, I've been to a bunch. I haven't seen many councillors. I've seen a lot of staff, which is great, but there needs to be a bit of a bridging, I think. You know, we're here, we're going to talk to the people, see what they want and take it back. So, and now I know about down dry, so thank you.
We need to go on.
Yep. Okay, this one might be shorter. What do you think the Valley Council does? What looking from the outside?
You want to?
Let's just keep it brief though, shall we? I'm really loving the My Clarence Valley branding for all the problems that perhaps the things that we may have missed in terms of tourism. As someone coming back to the valley, I'm absolutely loving the local tourism brochures.
Okay. One thing that the current term of council have done well is project manage projects. So when the decision's been made to start a project and council are managing it, they have been doing the projects on time and on budget. Some examples are the Grafton Pool is on budget and on time. The Ulmarra upgrade was on budget and on time. The settling pond for Rushforth Road for our water filtration was on budget and on time. So council are definitely doing that really well.
Can I make a clarification on a point though? Cristie raised the point about the councillors not going to these drop-in sessions. I just want to point out they are organised by the staff for the staff and the community, not for councillors. We did, the previous mayor entirely organised councillor listening tours, and I went to all of those that I could, so did a number of other councillors. So I just wanted to clarify that point. We are not, as councillors, we are not invited to the staff organised drop-in sessions. Thank you.
Yeah, basically, I think there has been some really good outcomes. I mean, I was involved years ago in the Grafton Waterfront, and the Grafton Waterfront's done. It's a great outcome for the community. It's finished. The Ulmarra Street upgrade, this guy and a few others live out there, is a great outcome. So the reality is there has been a lot of things achieved in that outcomes. There's still things to be done, like the community centre, not the community centre, well, the community centre finished down here too, of course, but also I know from anybody from Maclean, they're hanging out for the entertainment centre, of whatever you want to call it, and finishing off waterfronts. And obviously, you know, there's issues around Yamba with the roads and everything else we've got to work on. So, but overall, the council's done a pretty good job in some things. You know, should give congratulations for it.
Okay, we've already mentioned that Clarence Valley Council is actually the largest council in all of New South Wales, so it is a huge area. But we're hearing, not true. It's on the east coast. Sorry. Oh, that wasn't what we were told the other day by the...
It's on the coast.
Okay. Sorry, I stand corrected. On the coast. But we're here in Yamba tonight, so all the people here are only interested in what you're going to do for Yamba. So, what changes do you want to see in Yamba and the Lower Clarence? And in tied with that is also, what's the one thing you would like to implement to better help business in the entire in the Lower Clarence?
Yeah, well, I think my response to this goes hand in hand with helping business, but Yamba needs to look better. Our main street looks tired, it's not kept up properly, there's weeds growing out of bricks, there's no sweeping done on the streets of a morning, the roundabouts look bad. Yamba is such a beautiful town, and all the business owners here and all the residents are so proud of where we live, surrounded by natural beauty. And it's a basic function of council to maintain roads and main streets. and it feels like Yamba's been forgotten about. And it's a very simple thing. We just need to take pride in our main street and make it beautiful, and so that our residents and business owners can be proud of where we live.
Thank you very much. What it is, there is actually an improvement grant at the moment for Yamba, and it's like a pilot project, and it's for beautifying Yamba, which is great, $400,000. Now, on top of that, I think what's important is a tourist brochure, but what I'm concerned about that has businesses, advertising businesses, but what I'm concerned about is that will impact our local Clarence Valley Independent newspaper because the advertising will be taken from them. So I am a little bit concerned about that. But also I am concerned about Airbnbs. There needs to be better compliance. I believe that they should, and I'm sorry if I've got some people offside who may have an Airbnb here, but that is impacting on the commercial enterprises here, such as the accommodation places. So I'd like for higher rates and that sort of thing against the Airbnbs. Thank you.
Did you want?
Hello, I would just like to say with the Airbnbs, and I'll disclose I don't have one, but that is actually not something that we can change. The Upper House inquiry about Airbnb some years back, it used to be actually not permissible under residential zoning, but council didn't have the resources to actually regulate that. We just don't have the rangers to go out and regulate that. So what did the state government do? They had an Upper House inquiry, and it was up in Ballina, I think, and they went around the state, and they've changed the laws. So under the LEPs, which is the local environment plans, which has your zonings, it is now permissible in a residential zone. So that's something that we as councillors, even though we might not like it, we can't do anything about it, because under residential zoning you are now allowed to actually rent your house out short term. Yes, it has restrictions. Yes, we've put a cap on it of 180 days. Unlike some councils in the city, in Sydney, have it 365 days. So again, it's something we can't do anything about that. It's been taken out of our hands. It's now permissible where it wasn't. I also just wanted to say that I'm going to sneak back. I hope I get okay with that. Do you know that housing strategy where we've got someone saying no one knew about the community consultation? We had over 800 submissions for our first draft, and it took months for our staff to look through that, and they've come back with an amended one. And can I just say, is Mr Little here today? Hello, Mr Little. Thank you very much for your letter. So it's gone back out. Council unanimously endorsed the amended local housing strategy. The local housing strategy is something that the state government, we are required to do. All 128 councils in New South Wales are required. We've looked at our staff have looked at all those 800 submissions and made changes, and it's back out on exhibition because council has endorsed it to go back out. So, you know, we had a large group of people at the Iluka Bowling Club last Thursday, and the community had a public meeting. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm a councillor that has to make a decision, and how can I make a decision when it's still out on exhibition and I have no idea what the council staff might bring back for it's a draft at the moment. So I'm not sitting on the fence. I'm not a fence sitter. Never have I been a fence sitter. I've not got any splinters in my bum ever in 16 years. So I am just open and happy to wait until it comes back. And if I'm re-elected, I'll need to make a decision on that. So I can't come out like some of the community want and say I'm against this or that, because I have no clue what the the strategy is going to come back on. So I just wanted to say that. But thank you. I do appreciate you telling me what you think. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to respond to that a little bit, because we're very full aware that not one business in the CBD of Yamba knew, the owners knew about the local affordable housing strategy, local housing strategy and affordable housing policy at all. And that was the proposal that council put up was for 6-storey shop top housing. And that was actually 5 apartments on top of a business. Now, we walked the streets and into those businesses, might have been to some of you people here, and we let them know. We showed them the proposal and they were not aware. The people who were also up the hill in Yamba, and there was about 70 houses just along from Yamba Street and up the hill, they weren't aware of that either. And I know that iCope, the organisation over in Iluka, they weren't informed, the people there who were impacted with the changing of the zoning for the local housing strategy, they weren't aware either. And it wasn't, if it wasn't for people, organisations, excuse me, Karen, thank you. If it wasn't for organisations like Yambacan, the community would not have been informed at all. Thank you.
So I guess in answer to the question about what we'd like to see for Yamba, I think that's a question for the community, and what I would like to do is work with the community to really reflect their needs and their wants in anything that happens. I am a big believer of working together beyond just each town and connecting the different groups that are interested in the same things to work together, because you have more impact and you have more gravitas when you work together as a group.
Community cultural community hall and library fully operational. Businesses, an upgrade of the Yamba salt water pool, which is a part of the upgrades on Main Beach, and the Yamba community pool extended.
Thank you.
Election, they're promising too much that they may not be able to deliver. But what I can promise is that I will keep
What's the matter? Is the other ones there?
Sorted.
There is a switch on there, is there?
Right, yeah. It was off, was it? Just don't touch that. Don't touch that. Okay. All right, I'm not allowed to touch the microphone. Talking to that one. Ah, that's better. Yeah. Okay. Usually when I've got a microphone in my hand, I start singing, so I should warn you. Look, I don't want to buy into the short-term holiday lettings one, because that is very controversial and the state government is dealing with that. But it's not true that we as a community or as a council can't do anything. In fact, Byron Shire has actually lobbied the government, the state government, to reduce the number of days that they have. So we can do something, but that's up to the community to decide what we need to do, because there are members of the community that do have short-term holiday lets and may be running them quite okay as well. But I'm not buying into that tonight. What I wanted to say, though, you want to know what I think about Yamba? I think you're going to have to be very careful that Yamba doesn't become the next Gold Coast, because I've heard people saying that's what they want. Some people want to make Yamba the next Gold Coast. And I think this money that Lynne has referred to needs to be spent very carefully. And not, I think the local character, a lot of the local character is to do with the natural environment around Yamba. And we're planting the wrong species of trees, bringing in things from other areas. The Grafton riverfront would have been perfect if they'd planted the right trees and not paperbarks that are not found south of Maryborough. Things like that. So we've got to be sensible about it. I think the natural values of the Clarence are what sells the valley, and we've got to protect those. And to me, that's what Yamba should be doing, being careful not to become the next Gold Coast. And I'll do my best. I'll do my best to protect the natural environment, and I hope that all you work with me on that. Thank you.
Okay, everybody. Well, I better come in, hadn't I? I think of all of the areas of the Clarence Valley that concern me the most, it's probably Yamba and Iluka. Because the statistics are, you heard from Des earlier on, that house prices over the last few years have increased from 400,000 to just under 1 million. Okay, sorry guys, wave at me hard. Okay, have increased from 400,000 to 1 million. And I'm looking at the census data. And in 10 years, the median age in Yamba increased from 53 to 57. We know the next census is going to come up in just a couple of years' time. It's been spoken about by the government, as you know, at the moment. But what is that going to show? I'm concerned that the primary school enrolment, even though the population of Yamba has grown, the primary school enrolment has dropped from 475 to 462. So what we can see is we've got a population here that's aging. And the problem with the house prices as they are is that people who come from the Clarence Valley cannot earn enough to buy a house in Yamba. And what's happening increasingly is we've got rich millionaires from Sydney and from Brisbane. I'm sorry if some of you are here, but rich millionaires who've come and they've started to buy up the houses. And this has all happened very, very fast. So I'm concerned about the future and what it's going to bring. I'm concerned about the people who are going to work in the coffee shops, the people who are going to work in Yamba Fair, the people who are going to work in the shops down the high street. I know that already we've got problems with recruiting New South Wales Fire and Rescue firefighters. And you've seen just on Saturday, down in Maclean, admittedly, there were 4 firefighters who were paid to stay there over the night from all over the state because they couldn't find enough firefighters to cover the job. Now, of course, with Fire and Rescue, they're the ones that are on call all the time. With us guys, the volunteers, we can click on or click off. But if your house is burning down, you need to be sure that somebody's going to turn up. And that is a concern. So with all of these issues, obviously the housing strategy went out and the housing strategy was resoundingly rejected. So the housing strategy is now out again for consideration. One of the options we discussed was the option of putting the housing strategy through the rest of the Clarence Valley and completely leaving out Yamba and Iluka, leaving things as they are. That is still going to be an option. But I asked the community to really look at this housing strategy closely. Can we have community solutions to this? It is a very, very difficult issue. Everybody knows that. But please do have a look at that, because I assure you that the present council, and we're coming to an end, but I'm sure the next council too will be listening to what you have to say. But please really think about what it might be. Thank you.
It's probably quite difficult to actually add significant amount more to that, but I just wanted to relay a little personal story in that we have had my grandparents' home. We couldn't afford to move into it until this year. We've had it rented for 20 years, predominantly to retail workers. And my grandfather, who built it or lived in it from 1972, was a barman here at the bowling club. There is a significant issue in that people are now affluent enough to purchase property in Yamba and then leave it vacant. So one thing that really deeply concerns me about any housing strategy and any use or misuse of the term affordable has the implication that we are going to build cheap slap up, small, and actually probably not that cheap if you think about it and look at some of the examples that are around in the extended, wider Yamba community. $510,000 for the most recent one I saw advertised. Townsend has just hit $1 million. Townsend. No offence to anyone who lives in Townsend, but goodness grief. There is a problem with affluence in that there is not the commitment to the community, the people working, the people living. It can't just be a retirement enclave, and it certainly can't be Byronized. It's not Byron. This, I am certain, we do not live on basalt hills. We do not have rainforests like Byron. It is not Byron. I'm sorry, people. Significantly different geographically, and we've proven that because of how many people live too close to mangroves. So let's be realistic about what Yamba is, and in a changing climate, we're going to have significant problems with heat. There is no urban canopy. And so one thing I'd like to say to anyone who's talking about all of the brilliant election promises of concrete, and we're going to build this and build this and build this and build this, what about building some environmental resilience for the heat that we are going to experience in the future in Yamba?
Can I say here to the last two speakers, because I brought that up earlier in my speech. I mean, the issue of affordable housing, people being able to live here, to get your chefs, your waiters, etc. I know Byron pretty well now. The average rental price in Byron is $1,200 a week for an average 3-bedroom house. And I don't know what it is to buy one now. I didn't look at the figures, but it'd be over $3 million. So reality is, Byron, you see the cars driving in there, lining up on the freeway at 8 o'clock in the morning to service Byron. We don't want to get to that. So we've got to be very careful how we do that. But that's not what I was going to talk about. I see Shay over there. One of the big concerns for Yamba, I think, reality is, we don't think it is, but way up in the hills, there's a thing called Coruscant at the moment, just about doing some pretty advanced drilling for a big mine, big open cut mine, going to take a whole mountain out. And there's a few others besides that. So reality is, one of the big concerns for Yamba, and we might all have to go up there and tie ourselves to it, is going to be the water quality in the future. I don't think you can put big open cut mines in the upper catchments in this rainfall. We saw what happened to Lismore, etc., and not have those tailing dams break. That's happened all over the world. And I think that is a really big concern for our water quality, for our fishing industry, for our tourism industry, for our beef industry. And we all should be concerned about that. And so anyway, that's a big picture. It's a state government issue again, but reality is council, I know just everybody in this room virtually has said, you'll see it on the website, has said no, but reality is we're all going to keep lobbying very hard.
Seeing as Des has brought that up, I do ask Shay, if you want to come up and ask your question very briefly. I've asked Shay to word it because she can say it better than me. If you just briefly ask your question, and then we want a simple yes/no answer from the candidates. Is that what we're asking?
Oh, it's a bit of a yes/no and why, but we all know the Clarence Catchment Alliance has asked the candidates their stance on mining, and to justify that, we post that on social media. Thank you for that. We though want, as the CCA, we always want to put action to words of our councillors and state and federal government. So we want to ask tonight, if elected, are you publicly willing tonight to commit to signing our CCA pledge that states that you commit to the banning of mineral mining in the Clarence catchment to protect the social, environmental, cultural and economic well-being of the entire region based on the higher risk of mining and tailing dams due to flooding?
I can use a yes/no things. Yes.
Oh,
Please just hold them up for a few seconds. We want to ask Peter to comment. Peter, we want to ask him to comment. Do we want to ask you a comment? Okay, next question. 3 years ago, we were promised a roundabout on the way out of Yamba where the concrete blocks are. This was to take some of the heavy traffic around Treelands Drive and surrounding area. If elected, will you get this done? This is a difficult question to answer for most of you. So does anyone want to actually make a comment on
Yes,
this?
please.
Thank you.
Okay. As you know, I was pretty responsible for changing the traffic light resolution to roundabouts. I fought very hard to get a rescission motion. That roundabout is actually going to be built by the developers of the Keys estate. As soon as their last, their last stage. I've seen the plans. I've actually posted them on social media. It is definitely happening, but they don't need to do that until their last stage. They're selling stage 4 at the moment. I've investigated this. Please. So it is not a council responsibility. In fact, we gave the developer back, and I was quite angry about this in my first term, and Councillor Tiley was angry at me, because I was angry that we gave the developer back $750,000 that he'd paid as a developer contribution for that roundabout. Now, I was very wrong, because that now is, if we'd accepted that, the ratepayers would have had to pay the balance of building that roundabout. And since 2008, we're now, 16 years on, building a roundabout costs a lot more than $750,000. So by actually giving the developer back his money, it means he has to, and there's been a change of ownership, of course, we probably all know that. They are responsible for building that roundabout. And I'm with you. I can't wait till it's built, because all of the people in the Keys estate will be able to turn left and we'll have less traffic down Yamba Road and Treelands Drive. But it is a developer, it's a condition of the DA, and it is his responsibility. You can be unhappy about that, Lee, but there's nothing we can change that. I've actually given you the actual reports back in 2004 when it was an administrator looking after this Clarence Valley Council. So it's okay to be angry about we want a roundabout. Do we want to pay for it? Of course we don't. The ratepayers don't want to pay for it. They don't have to. It's a condition that the developer has to pay, and it will be built. It's been to the traffic committee. I've seen the plans. I've posted them on social media, and I'm sorry, but we'll just have to be patient if we don't want to pay for it.
So, Karen, does that mean that the minute they sell the last block, they have to start construction?
Do you want to answer?
Yeah. Of stage 4, or can they then do another stage?
Look, it is a condition of consent to a DA. Council, once they've given consent and a number of other recommendations, council can't then dive back into it and start to change it, and you can give me the V-sign or whatever you like, but I'm just telling you what it is. It's neither here nor there to me. But and I'm not here to argue the toss. There's a whole body of law that will tell you that council can't dive back into this one. If the condition of consent says they've got to build it at the commencement of stage 4 or whatever, you might, it's never been to, but you might think, oh, well, the developer's not going to do it. The council then has the power to not sign off on the plan, so they'll never sell their last stage of blocks. It works, and it works very well.
I'd like to just say that I attended a meeting in the library here, and I met with one of the head planners, and he showed me a diagram of the roundabout to be constructed. And I asked him, so when? And he said, after stage 2 is completed. Thank you.
I think this just points to probably the greatest frustration that this entire valley feels, in that until I think it was this March this year, there's been no legal ability for local government to actually enforce some of these conditions, some of this funding, some of these promises. And I don't know whether there's new legislation as of March. There are conditions of consent in some of these developments that are hundreds of pages long, and the ability then for the developer to come and trade various portions of it little bit by little bit, and then debate and argue and chip away at those conditions, I think is the thing that we all feel, if we could trust that that process was sound and that we knew about it and that we had any say over it, perhaps we may not be quite so adversarial about development in general. It always feels like the infrastructure happens after all the time, and we are the ones who don't have the services and the facilities and the things that we need to operate day to day.
Look, I have to clarify that. It is simply not true to say that you can, as a developer or any developer, you cannot complete your conditions of consent. You may well go back to council and say, this doesn't really work, but can we do this or can we not do it at all? And council then consider it. But to say that somehow a developer gains some power is quite untrue, and it's really silly to try and incite people that way. Council has the final say on signing off on the plan, and they don't and can't sign off on it until all of the conditions of consent have been met. Thank you.
I think we need to move on.
Oh, Deb wants it. Yeah.
So in response to an email I received from a local ratepayer in Yamba recently, within the past 3 weeks, they asked this question. So what I did was I rang the developer and said, what's going on? And where are we up to? And he told me, and then I did a follow-up email with that information to the staff, and the staff said they'd just been out and done an inspection on site with the developer, and that works will be in progress shortly.
So does that mean that all the blocks in stage 4 have been sold?
I didn't ask that question.
Okay, so by shortly?
Sometime in the very near future.
So when it was approved, can any of the existing councillors tell me, was there a time frame put on that, or could they not sell that last block forever? So the condition was when the stage 4 was released, or when it was all sold? On that development, there was a sunset clause on that development. Do you want to give it? Was first elected. No, it came to council. Just hang on, get my.
Hello. I can recall, it was probably in my first term. It was, because Councillor Margaret McKenna was there. There was a sunset clause on that canal estate, because you might recall it was actually approved in the 1970s, I believe, way back in the McLean Shire days. But there was a sunset clause, and I think it was about 2008, which was when you might recall we had the global financial crisis. And the developer came to council because they wanted that sunset clause removed, that they couldn't afford to continue with the other stages because it wasn't financially viable for them. And I, as a councillor back then, thought in my mind, I would say something, but I better not say tough tease. But anyway, I was angry about that. But in the end, I was convinced by the debate that they would have taken us to the Land and Environment Court anyway, because it was financial. There was a financial crisis all over the world. And how was we as a little local government force somebody to actually continue developing their approvals when everybody was in trouble? So that sunset clause was removed, and I think it was in 2009.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've covered that. Okay, next question from the audience is, how will climate change affect decisions you make about building development in flood-prone areas, in fire risk areas, in regard to setting a population limit for Clarence Valley? You want me to comment?
Thank you. Council already have an adopted policy on climate change, and to go one further, as soon as council adopted that, I then moved at the following meeting that every report on every project would have to contain, for our information, the amount of CO2 that that project would contribute to the atmosphere. And that's when I found out that roundabouts would contribute 400 tonnes of CO2 into the atmosphere, and traffic lights would contribute about half a tonne. But we still had the 400 tonne emissions. I don't know whether the council still report on every project, but they should, because that was a decision of council that must be implemented on every report that comes to council. Thank you. Is it? Right.
Thanks. When we acknowledged that there was a
Quiet, please.
I don't care whether you're fighting or not, I just want to speak with a bit of respect. When we acknowledged the climate emergency, we did agree that we would have in every business paper, in every item, a section, just like we do with what are the headings, financial and all that. We now have climate change, so that's in everyone. Some of the staff comments are very limited, and some of the issues don't have a direct involvement with climate change. But we've done that, and it's an advance. But the fact is, we as decision makers need to consider things like development on the floodplain. Now, the problem with that is that really the state government should be coming out and banning development on the floodplain. They've already done that in parts of Sydney and the Hawkesbury, but they haven't done it up here. And so that's why I put forward the notice of motion to back zone the areas of the Waiyura that weren't already developed. And to me, that was what we had to do, but I couldn't get other councillors interested in supporting that. So what I would be doing, if re-elected, is to continue to fight to move development off the floodplain. We've got other areas in the valley which are out of flood, which don't have high conservation value, and we've got to stop clearing the bush. We get approvals done, and the council staff can do a very good job, and they say, you've got to retain all these trees. But then in 2 or 3 years' time, the trees are all gone because there's all these exemptions. They can get permission from council. We've got to be serious about looking after the natural environment in which we live, because this is why most people live here. Yeah. And so, but the other thing is about conditions. We can put conditions of consent on till the cows come in, but we don't have the ability to police it. There's a particular development at the moment, and I'm not going to mention specifically where it is, but the condition of consent was that you are not to have anyone move into the houses until the facilities are there, and that's been ignored. There are people living in this particular development, and that's wrong. Now, council are investigating it, but what are they going to do? In a housing crisis, when people are struggling, are they going to come in and say to these people, move out and throw them on the street? It's a real difficult situation. But conditions, so to approve developments with conditions, that doesn't necessarily solve all the problems that you're trying to solve with the conditions. Sometimes you're better off not approving a development if you have to put that many conditions on that they can't be policed. Thank you.
fully agree with Greg and also with Andrew speaking about that. And just recently this year in June, I gave evidence with another lady who's sitting up the back here in New South Wales Parliament House to an inquiry in Sydney, flew down and did this. And it's about a parliamentary inquiry into the planning system, taking into consideration climate change and the impacts on the environment and the communities. And we're waiting for that interim report to be now tabled in Parliament. And as Greg said earlier, it's with Portfolio Committee 7. They came up, a few of the committee, and we drove around with them in their bus and showed them all of these developments on the floodplain. But what's been happening, I believe, over the years too, the Local Environment Plan 2011 has actually been contravened for years. 5.21 talks about any rainfall falling on a property is not to be displaced to any other adjacent properties. It also says in there that it should not be approved, a development application, if there is insufficient or ineffective evacuation routes, and that they should not be impacted. Thank you very much.
I'm not sure whether you're necessarily going to like this, but I was trained in San Francisco in 2012 by Al Gore about the climate situation, something called the Climate Reality Project. And in only a decade and a bit, I've seen the climate situation become something that's actually co-opted, so that now we are so focused on collecting emissions data that we're actually operating pretty much the same as normal, except now we're making some extra calculations. What we're not talking about is this thing called degrowth, and nobody likes to hear it. But we can build all these new things, we can add climate reports, we can add greenhouse gas emission reports, we can change to 100% renewables, we can all drive EVs. In fact, we probably can't because there just aren't enough minerals in the ground for us all to do that. And we don't want to anyway, we know that. And it's almost impossible for any good politician to be able to say these things and then still get re-elected because we don't want to hear it. Now, in recent times, I went up to Byron Bay and listened to a gentleman who talks about that we're all in 3 stages. One's pre-crisis, which means denial, and there's plenty of us around in the society like that. Then there's those in crisis. And they're typically some of us, which has been myself included, where we're trying to do our level best. And there's a lot of people here doing their level best. Then there's something called post-crisis, because anyone with any mental health knowledge knows that when you are in a crisis state, a scarcity state, an argumentative state, you don't think clearly. You don't invent the best things. You're not imaginative. You're not creative. So what I'm saying to you is that we are all beyond where we think we are. And something that Greg talks about is the lens of biodiversity. We can have the greenest factories and the greenest high-rises and the greenest highways and the greenest cars, but it won't be green if we don't have biodiversity, because that's what underpins everything. I'm not sure if many people are across that, but consider the idea that the affluence that we all live with is fundamentally unsustainable. It's that simple.
Okay. We have one more question. The question's quite long, but the answers will be very simple. And we'll pass across. Everybody answer individually. One-word answer. One of the first things councillors decide is the scheduled day and time for their regular ordinary meetings. This is not only relevant to candidates, but affects community members too, who may wish to attend in person, watch the live stream video, or present deputations to council. I'd like candidates to give some thought to this, and in the event of being elected, how best to encourage community engagement and involvement in council meetings and improve transparency. Your first impressions and thoughts on the subject, please. First question, What would your preference be for timing of ordinary council meetings, example, morning, afternoon or evening? Can we go along the table? Start this end if you like.
I think evening.
I'm open.
Probably evening.
Probably afternoon, because a lot of older people especially wouldn't like travelling at night on the roads.
It's a little bit of a loaded question, so.
It is a loaded question. It's actually from a candidate, but not from the floor. Oh, look, I don't care. I'm happy to go mornings, nights, afternoons, whatever the majority of our councillors want. I'd like to see the fact that we stream our meetings live, like this meeting, makes it extremely easy for people to see what's happening. So again, we recently changed our meetings from 2 till 3. Don't know whether that was a good thing or not, but the majority said let's give it a go. So I think I don't think there's any perfect time, but yes, I do agree. I think it's great that we stream our meetings like tonight. Not everybody can come here. We have a large local government area and Yamba's special, but it's not the only place. So again, it's a democracy. You know, it's not about what I want. It's about the best for everybody.
I think what I...
Just the one couple word answers, sorry.
Oh, yep. Okay, I'll be quick. Yes, I do think that the meetings could be about 1 or 2 o'clock in the day, and any deputations probably about 11 o'clock as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to think that council would, the council meetings would be business-like, and on that I'd like to see business hours. If it was deputations in the morning and start at 1 o'clock or 1:30, whatever, that would, I believe, would suit more people more often than trying to get one at this time of the night or any other time. So I'm for business-like.
Look, I'm flexible. I've been at meetings that have started at 9 a.m. in the morning. I've been at meetings that started in the afternoon. I've been at meetings that have gone through to 1 a.m. in the morning. So I'm flexible. That was Waverley Council, Councillor Toms.
Yeah, I'm flexible as well. I'm a morning person, so morning.
Even though I'm a bird watcher, I'm not a morning person. Look, I'm flexible, but we really do need to be careful, because in trying to please someone, we're going to make someone else unhappy. It is difficult. It's like calling it a public meeting. You know, you can never get the right time or the right day or whatever. So I'm open for discussion, but I think that, 1 o'clock may be fine. We used to have meetings at 2. The problem is if you start too late in the afternoon, they go right into late, and then people have to travel, and that includes councillors as well. And some of us do live some distance from Maclean, if it's the meetings in Maclean. So, as I say, I'm open to discussion, but I think I would prefer 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock start. Thank you.
I'm very fortunate in that I don't have any real limitations on my time. I think what I would be is flexible, and we have to look at the people who have either carer or childcare responsibilities. We want to make the position of councillor as accessible as we can to all.
All right, I'm going to be really selfish and say after a coffee and a good sleep, my brain works better. Right now, at the end of the day, after you've worked your butt off, it's hard to think clearly and get, fresh ideas coming to you freely. But at the end of the day, I'll make whatever works. I'm not going to be fussy on anything like that. So you do what you got to do.
Use your yes, no for this one, please. The rest of that question is, would you be in favour of making the councillors' monthly pre-meeting workshops with senior staff open to members of the public to attend as observers only, either in person or via live stream, to enhance transparency and democratic involvement? Thank you. That's all the questions I've been handed. We just have one question from the audience. Someone's asked to read out. I'll just take that mic down. Sorry.
just ask the question.
Thank you. Bill Day, current councillor for another, 5 days. It was mentioned earlier tonight that ratepayers and residents should not be treated as the enemy. Yet Yamba can, a very effective group of Yamba residents, has been treated as the enemy by many current councillors and staff. What do candidates think of this, and how should it be addressed by the new team of councillors?
I did mention earlier that I've been off to the Land Environment Court 4 times with Maclean Shire Council and Clarence Valley Council. Momentarily, yes, they probably did see me as the enemy and I saw them as the enemy. Once the decision from the judge or whoever, the magistrate or whoever happened to be, and they mostly got it wrong, but once that decision came down, that should be the end of the matter. And I've been called out by another councillor who's not here tonight for suggesting to people that they have every right to pursue their issues all the way from complaints to whoever they want to complain to, complaints to councillors, and keep moving it up all the way, and they can take the council off to the court. Unfortunately, that's expensive and it should never get there, but it doesn't then mean that we should be forever enemies or anything else. That's part of the democratic process that we have available to us. So I'm fine if people want to take council on, good luck to them, and quite often I'll support them. And that's the way it should be. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I believe a lot of this conflict could be avoided simply by open communication, honesty and integrity on both parts.
Yeah, look, I like the way Yamba Can has kept the council accountable and their efforts, but it's my experience that Yamba Can doesn't represent the entire community. It's a group of retirees, and we need, as a council, we need to put our heads together and come up with new ways to engage with the entire community. And we need to inspire our community to engage with council. And it's going to take some thought, but we need to engage with young people, through to retirees and everybody in our region.
Yeah. I think that it is a citizen's right to protest. I think council should not be directing their concerns at a particular group. Yamba Can formed because of the lack of communication from council to residents. You wouldn't have Yamba Can if council's communication was as effective as it should be. I don't think this is the two sides should sit down. Sorry, Ray, I don't agree with you. The two sides should I think what's happened here is we have a community group. They've expressed themselves very strongly, and we have very strong advocates in this group, no doubt about it. But there's nothing wrong with that. In the recent report to council, it was implied that Yamba Can were responsible for over $1 million worth of delays in the Treelands Drive Community Centre. Well, I was the council that moved the motion to look at option B. So if anyone's responsible, it's me. So I haven't got $1 million to give you, sorry. But the fact is, community groups should be treated with respect, and it should be two ways. I have yet to see anywhere where Yamba Can has not done the honourable thing and the right thing. Just because they ask difficult questions doesn't mean they should be singled out for special treatment. It's wrong. There's other groups in the valley as well. We have Valley Watch, we have Clarence Valley Conservation Coalition, we have the Clarence Catchment Alliance, all these other groups, and they've all got the right to approach council. And if they don't like what council says or doesn't say, because often council doesn't respond, that's half the problem. There was a customer satisfaction survey done a couple of years ago And there was great excitement because the percentage of people that never got a response from council went down. I think it was from 35% to 26 or something like that. There should not be anyone not getting a response from council. So people are going to get upset. People are going to form groups like Yamba can, and good on them as far as I'm concerned, because I'm a councillor and I've got thick skin and I'm happy to work with them. Thanks.
As a member of Yamba Can, I have resigned my role as secretary because I think it would be a conflict of interest. And yes, we got targeted. We got targeted for providing councillors information that they did not have. They had not received information to make a very important decision about the Treelands Drive Community Centre. Now, James, I take it to heart a little bit. A group of retirees? We are not all a group of retirees, thank you. Okay, and we have been a voice for our community. And I have not heard one community member say anything bad about us. And thank you all for your support, for supporting Yamba Can. And we are not a small group. Yes, we certainly do. Yes.
Just quickly, maybe to try to reconcile that, I think there has been a perception perhaps that Yamba Can has come at things from a negative framing, and there's a good reason for that, because if they didn't have to do what they're trying to do, they would then be able to do visioning processes and collaborate and empower the council and be empowered by the council. So, you know, it's only negative because it needs to be, and then we can look forward to a change in the future.
Just a quick one. And actually, when you spoke about the Gippers and the cost implications, the blowout, I'm being called the $1 million lady now at the moment. But what it was said in that council meeting that it was about finding out what resources council needs to actually process Gippers. Well, if that was the case, why was Yamba Can's name even put in that business paper at all? Thank you.
Okay, do we have any last minute questions from the audience? So just one more and that's it. Do you want to read it? Do you want to read it out? Oh, I've got to read it out. That's right, just a yes or no. That's good. I like yes or no ones. It's a yes or no one. I like those. Yes or no. Do any of the candidates live in West Yamba or the floodplain?
That's all right.
Do any of the candidates live in West Yamba or in the floodplain? So if you live on any floodplain, probably that would be a yes. Thank you. I think that's it. We're covered. Thank you once again, everybody attending. Thank you very much for all the candidates for attending tonight. We do appreciate the time and effort it takes for you all to attend. There has been a lot of these functions on over the last couple of weeks, and we're very pleased you accepted our invitation to come tonight. We wish you all well on Saturday. Remember to vote, everybody, on Saturday, this Saturday. Sorry? Pre-poll is open now, so if anyone wants to pre-poll before Saturday, it is already open. Thank you. Where's pre-polling in Yamba? Where's pre-polling in Yamba? No, it's in McLean.